Learn about our English courses for economists by visiting our website, englishforeconomists.com. Hello, and welcome to podcast number 10. I am Alan Robert, and I am your host at English for Economists. These are not lessons to teach you economics. No, my goal is to teach you practical day-to-day vocabulary that will help you read, write, and speak about the economy in English. You could say that today's lesson is very powerful. Why? Well, our topic is the electrical grid. Let's begin with some relevant vocabulary. What is the electrical grid? The electrical grid is an interconnected network for electricity delivery from producers to consumers. Hydropower. What is hydropower? Well, it's also known as hydroelectric power. Hydropower is electrical energy produced through the moving water, through the power of moving water. Wind power. Wind, W-I-N-D. Wind power, or wind energy, is the use of wind to provide mechanical power through wind turbines to turn electric generators for electrical power. Solar power. Solar power is the conversion of sunlight into electricity. Renewable energy. You've probably heard that before. Renewable energy means energy that is sustainable. That means something you can't run out of, like the sun or the wind or even ocean tides. Renewable energy. It's also known as green energy. Non-renewable energy. Well, that's the opposite. Non-renewable energy comes from sources that will run out or will not be replenished for thousands or even millions of years. Most non-renewable energy sources are fossil fuels, such as coal, petroleum, and natural gas. Those are fossil fuels, and fossil fuels are non-renewable. Power outage. Well, that's also called a power cut. A power outage, a power out, a power blackout, power failure, or a blackout, all the same thing. This is a loss of the electric power to a particular area. So when the electricity goes out, the lights go out. That's a power outage. All right, let's get started. What is an electrical grid? Well, we saw that an electrical grid is an interconnected network for electricity delivery from producers to consumers. Well, who invented the electrical grid? Well, the electrical power grid was created when power utilities, so the companies that make the power or transmit the power, well, these power utilities formed joint operations to provide a more reliable service. So different companies got together, and together they constructed the power grid, the electrical grid. Now, these electrical grids vary in size and can cover whole countries or continents. So really different sizes, they can vary in size. The grid consists of power stations. Now, power stations are often located near an energy source and away from heavily populated areas. Power stations. Electrical substations. Now, electrical substations move or step the voltage up or down. In other words, to increase or decrease the voltage. That's an electrical substation. Electric power transmission lines. Well, we use that. Those are the wires that will carry power long distances, the transmission lines. And finally, the electric power distribution to individual customers. That's where the voltage is stepped down again to the required service voltage, for example, for homes or factories. Okay, so kind of reviewing that, let me describe the path that electricity takes from generation to consumption. It starts at the generating station. Okay, and remember, the generating station can be using fossil fuels such as natural gas, or it can be using solar power or wind power. However it's generated, the power first goes to a step up. So it's generated, then it gets stepped up to go to the transmission lines. So the voltage is stepped up in order to efficiently travel down the transmission lines. Okay, at the end of the transmission lines, we have to step down the voltage. So there's a step down transformer. And then the electricity is sent to different types of customers. An industrial customer, for example, or a residential customer. And both of those will probably require different voltages. So the step down will vary. So that, in effect, is the grid. And it can be this same model but duplicated. Obviously, many times you can have different generating stations on the same grid. In fact, that's the beauty of the grid, is if one generating station goes offline, the other one will step in, and they can collaboratively produce energy during peak periods. So electrical grids are a great idea, and it's something we really take for granted. Now, what are some of the important challenges faced by the electricity industry today? If you talk to people in the sector, they'll tell you that the main challenge is the dependence on non-renewable sources of energy, such as fossil fuels and even nuclear power. The expectation is to stop using fossil fuels in the next 20 years. As the cost of solar energy drops, it should begin to replace a lot of non-renewable energy. Another challenge includes expanding the size of the grid to cover a larger share of the global population. And of course, always improving the efficiency of the grid in order to reduce the cost of electricity. Now, something that's very polemic today is whether the electric grid is ready for electric automobiles. Supposedly, we're all going to be driving electric automobiles in the near future. So how are we going to charge those batteries? Is the electric grid ready for electric automobiles? Well, according to one expert, a man called Roy Nutter, he's a professor of computer science and electrical engineering at the Benjamin M. Statler College of Engineering and Mineral Resources. He says that the electric grid will struggle to handle the quick charging of very many electric vehicles at the same time, and will require a lot of new infrastructure to get the power to the charging stations. So they will struggle. They will have a hard time of it. They will fight. They will struggle. So they need to get the power to the charging stations. And of course, you need to build those charging stations. And they're going to be decentralized on the highways that crisscross all of our countries. Now, Nutter goes on to add that power storage will be required if we're going to move towards power sources such as solar and wind, which have peak periods of generation. After all, solar does not work at night and the wind doesn't blow all the time. So power storage will also be key together with the distribution. Now, like I say, we really take electricity for granted. We don't think twice about it. We take it for granted. Have you ever, though, considered what would happen in a city, maybe your city, if there were a 2-week power outage? So a power out, a power blackout? Well, just think about it. The food cold chain would stop working. So food that needs to be refrigerated would spoil. In other words, it would become rotten. Without electricity, some heating systems would not work, and the healthcare and financial systems would not be able to offer service as usual. and probably most security systems would also break down. Being without electricity for even 2 weeks would be a disaster. So, friends, think about that next time you turn on your lights, and be grateful for the power grid and for everything it does for us. Well, that's all for today. The English for Economists podcast is new, so this is a great time to share it with your friends and colleagues. Also, if you have any suggestions or comments, or just want to say hello, write to me at alan@englishforeconomists.com. I would very much enjoy hearing from you. So until next time, this is Alan Robert at English for Economists, and I am wishing you a fantastic day. Take care.